So hello guys, welcome back to part 2 of the series where we are building out this weather app. In this video we'll get started with this project. So the goal is to build out our app in Flutter. I'm assuming that you already have your environment set up, so you have your emulator and you already know how to run your basic Flutter app. If that's not something you've done already, I believe I'll link something in the description that will help you get set up. Also, you can properly check out Flutter documentation. That's also a very helpful tool that will help you get started. So with all that out of the way, I think we want to go ahead to get our app set up. Let us click on this view option and click on the command palette. It pops up with an option what Flutter template we want. So I'll say we want an application. I will just go into our project. Right, so we already have this images folder. If you remember from our last video, we organized our resources so that we can easily have them in our app. So I'll just select the weather app folder which we're already in so that I can create my Flutter app inside. So what we're going to call this is weather app. Okay, so we'll just let Flutter do its thing and get our project set up. Our app has finished setting up its configuration and we are greeted with a default template. So what we're going to do is we are going to run this so that we see what the default application looks like. Let's run flutter run. That's the command you use to start up your Flutter app. All right, so we run that and let it do its thing. This might take a while based on the first time that we are running the application. We'll let that do its thing and we'll come back when it's finished. Alright guys, so our app has finished up installing. Took quite a little bit, 842 seconds. So well over 10 minutes to install. This is like the first time it's getting stuff done, but relatively everything should be simple. So one thing we're going to do is clear up our default app so that we can begin working on our own structure and building out our own app. Let's get to it. First thing I like to usually do is go out here and create a folder called screens. Okay, so that's where we would keep all of our various pages or our various screens. Yeah, I think I'll pull up that our design real quick because I don't think we've seen it in this video yet. Okay, so this is the design we're working with. These screens being this layout you see with the text and everything. Yeah, this and the variations that come after. So that's where we'll have our various screens. In this video, we'll get this sorted out. Okay, back to our screens. Major thing we need to do is really, like I said, clear out what we don't need here right now. Okay, so inside of our screens, I would typically just go ahead and create something descriptive. So let's look at our template or sort of inspiration right now. Let's see what that looks like. Major things we'll need, we'll just call this like, because majorly this looks like one screen and has a bunch of sliders. Each of these sliders would try to create reusable structures. Instead of us writing each screen multiple times, we write it in one place and change the images, change the data that goes in there. Let's just get started. So I will go into our screens folder and let's just start off with like we'll call this app. Then I typically like to have everything sort of in the structure. So instead of this app, we'll call this main.dot. Okay, so that would represent the main call this app main screen. Okay, dot. Then I will still go into this app folder and create a file called body.dot. So that's what we house everything. So we'll see how that looks in a minute. right? But first things first, when we get our default app, we see a few things. We have a stateless widget for the newbies, just those getting started. A stateless widget, just know, does not keep any state. And what do I mean by state? So that means for instance, there are things that you want your app to change that usually is handled by a stateful widget, but this cannot handle changes. In just simple terms, just know that you can't even use, there's a function called set state. Just know that you can't use it inside of a stateless widget. But with time, that will become more clear as you progress, even if that doesn't make too much sense now. The default app uses a stateful and a stateless widget. So let's look at just the structure that comes in. So we have the app, it returns the material app, takes a title and team data. So instead of this, we have this my home page, which will be changing, because that my home page is what this stateful widget leverages. So that's what gives you this click. Hello. So yeah, this clickability. I will take out this this entire stateful widget class, and that will definitely be thrown an error here, but we'll sort that out in just a little bit. So inside of here, if you've installed everything properly, including the Dart package that comes in with VS Code. So for context, it's not only VS Code you would typically use. You can use Android Studio, which is still fine, but I prefer using VS Code, though it's a bit hacky to make it work sometimes. That's not the point. Let's keep moving on. Out here, we're going to first of all import material.dart from the material Flutter package, right? So that's what gives us access to the material UI package. Then yeah, we just type in STL to get the stateless widget. That we click on that and we just name it. So based on what we have here, we'll call it app main screen. So there are some other things we need to do. We'll need to create a scaffold. Okay, so a scaffold is what would give our page some structure. Or let us take a look at what a scaffold does. Okay, so create a visual design for material widgets, or visual scaffold for material widgets. So typically, if you don't have this, you will get a black screen and a bunch of errors. Let's just keep on going, then we'll come back to see how that looks in both cases. So we'll also include something else called safe area. I would also explain what that means in a little bit, but we still have an error here. So, but we'll still hold on to that. I know we have 2 errors right now, but we'll fix them all. All right, let's all just come into the body. And like I said, I like to keep everything separate so that at least each is separated and can easily be maintained. So we'll call material.dart. Then I think we would need a stateful widget. So let's just create a stateful widget for the meantime. Okay. App body screen, that's the name we'll give it. And we'll take out this placeholder, right, and put in something. And let's put in text, because why not? All right, so say hello, save that. We'll then come here and call app body screen. Okay, so we see our error is gone. And don't bother about the blue stuff. Most times it's looking for some form of constants to get everything looking okay. But if you put in a const here, I think that takes it away. Yeah, I think we'll just keep it like that so that it's good. So we'll come back to this main.dart. So don't be frightened. The app is still quite simple. It's just maybe it has a bunch of folders for now, but we try to keep our app structures organized. So back to the main.dart, we would reference this app main screen here. We'll take out this and put in app main screen. So we'll save that. We'll try to just hot reload. If that doesn't work, then we'll start it. So hit lowercase r. This will take some time because I'm doing some screen recording and compiling. What do we get? Okay, great. So we have our hello up here. A few things. Let's just break it down so that this information doesn't just fly over your head as we are building, so that we know where we are going. So we have scaffold and we have safe area. For instance, if we remove this scaffold, it's very important to have this, but let's just remove this scaffold. You don't have to, but let me just do it so that you see what happens. Okay, so if we do that, you see everything will become black, and that's not what we want. And this is just for demonstration purposes. It's not something you should do. But in the event that you do forget to put in a scaffold, this is the error you get. So anytime you run into this, just remember you possibly have missed out your scaffold. So I would undo what I've done, save it, yeah, and then refresh. So one other thing we also have is this safe area. If we don't have the safe area, as you can see, it just starts at the edge right here, right? If we don't have the safe area, it would want to start off somewhere here, which is not ideal. One other thing I think we need to remove, which I think should be here, this, right, should be debug show checker mode. So we'll turn this to false. That will remove this debug because we don't want that in our app. All right, so far so good, looking great. The next thing we want to do now is actually start working on our design or on our app. So we'll pull up our structure again. We'll just use it to overlap here for a little bit. The whole goal now is let's see what we're trying to get at. So we see that we have an image in the background. Shortly we'll be pulling in our images we've downloaded from the last video. But for now, we're just trying to understand our structure. We have a bunch of things going on. Don't feel overwhelmed, but we'll try to our best to make a lot of things reusable. We have this image background, this icon. They are spaced out pretty nice. We can easily get that done. So we have this toggle or slash slider that represents each screen. So as we are in position 1, this is the first one, so we are in position 1. You can see this second one, the second dot is in position 2, so on and so forth. Then we have our text, then we have our city just sneaking in there, big text, status, so on and so forth. So these are things that we can get into our app. Let's try to bring in our pictures into the app because currently they're not in there, right? So we have our images. Images should be somewhere. Can't find them. Okay. I will go back into the weather app. So these images now will just paste them in here. I'm using a Mac, so you can just cut it. If you're on Windows or Linux, just cut it and paste it inside of the app, which should show up right here. So we have our images here. But like I said, that doesn't mean that we have full access to view them. We're just going to now reference something called the pubspec.yaml. So the pubspec.yaml is just a text-based structure language for different configurations. It's not just used in Flutter or Dart. It's still used in other environments. For instance, in Docker, if you have some experience with that, it's still used in Docker. It's still used in some other environments just for like configuration stuff. Okay, so that being said, just something to know about it is what houses most of your configuration about your app. So for instance, you get the name, the description. Maybe we'll have to change our description to weather app. Publishing to, this is when you want to possibly turn your package into something people can use on the pub.dev, which is like the repository for different packages. We will leverage something from there, but not just yet, because I want us to gradually build into the application. So we have that, then the versions, so on and so forth. Dependencies, there's one dependency installed. We would still leverage or you still see more of this when we move in further with the app. But where I want us to settle our focus is in something that is commented, right? If you don't really put your eyes in, you won't see it, right? So is this assets? So when we mean assets, we are talking about things that our app uses. So this can be icons, this can be pictures, this can be videos, all sorts of stuff. But this just tells you, okay, this is where, I don't know why this thing is going off. But anyways, I digress. We want to point these images, right? Currently, we've uncommented it, which makes it accessible, but currently it's not using the right images. So currently we don't need to actually point the images directly. We just have the images folder such as is. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe if I rambled a little, but we'll save that. One thing I will do is pause my app. To stop my app is to use Control C, because I like us to, I know currently as we've saved this, that would want to check the files, ensure everything sets up, but I also would typically want to restart the app since we've not done that since the video began. So use Control C or Command C, and Control C. No, you don't use Command C, sorry, if you're on Mac. Just use Control C even if you're on a Mac as well, to stop your application. But I think there are other options as well that have been given. You have something to detach, which is cool, but I think you want to use Q to terminate the app as well. So either use Control C or use Q. So while this is, I think I can cancel that because the app is not running. And let's just run Flutter run again. So I would come in when the app has started afresh. All right, so it is done. Let's move on. So I think we can close out this pub/spec.yaml and let's have some space to work. So let's wrap this in something called the container. Wrap that in a container. Yeah, what I highly recommend, at least why that is so, it's really good, is they have most of these things easy for you to just click and get things set up. It's pretty neat. There are a few things we want to do. We have our container. We want to set our width to double dot max finite and the height to double dot max finite as well. All right. Then let's see what that looks like. Let's have a color of, say, colors the black one. That should take up, I think, pretty much everything in here. Well, let's see how that looks. Just wait for it to load. So there are a few things while this is reloading. There are a few things we also want to leverage inside of our container. We still want to have a decoration, all right, and that takes in a box decoration. If this doesn't make too much sense, I think you should still go back and study some important things about the basics so that you don't get lost. We have our box decoration, and we can then say we take in the image property. There are two ways we can use images. There's one we call the asset image, or image to assets, or network image. So asset image means that you're using it directly from your local file, in the sense that you have the picture or stuff already referenced. Okay, so, or you can use network image instead of me just saying. So you can use asset image. This would pick out something from your local file, or you can use network image, but we are going to be using asset image in this. Right, is there anything wrong? I don't know why it's acting up like that. Okay, let's just use image the assets. That's also the same thing, basically. We just see images slash by our default, let me pull that up. We'll have this snowy one. Wow, this is taking so long to load. It's because of the screen recording, I know. Well, okay, we'll have to take in the decoration image instead of an image. That's why it's showing up that. So we'll wrap this up with a widget. Let's call it decorated image. Okay, finally loaded after God knows how long. Decorated. Let's see what that looks like, by the way. So everywhere is black. Good. But we don't need this black section, so we take that out. We also have decorated image that takes in image. Hopefully I've typed that right. Decoration image. Okay, it takes in an image, and all right, so we just pass in the path images slash snow.jpg. Is that what you want? Okay, so what you want to use is this asset image. There's some instances you use image to assets, but I think this is what this decoration image needs. So moving on, we are not all perfect. We are still sometimes figuring this thing out. But moving on, we've gotten that. So let's reload the app and see what it looks like. All right. So we have our picture showing, but it's not showing edge to edge, right? So there are a few properties the asset image exposes to us. So I think one of them is fit. Let's see. No, it is the decorated image that has the fit. Yeah. So we use box fit. So it's called box fit.fill. I think that should set everything up. Let us reload again. All right, great. So if you see, if you try to reload, it doesn't reload. Sometimes you just tap on the app and it would refresh. That's great. Currently, right now, we have our image taking up the full width, just like this one right here, which is pretty good. So what we want to start moving on to now is actually setting up some structure. I would reduce this a bit. I want to have this image showing so that we can arrange our structure better. Okay, let's start building out things. So currently we have our text. We'll take out this text and we would have we'll swap it out for a column, and inside of this column to take in children. The column really is just one big whole piece like this. It's an entire column. You understand? I don't know if it makes sense. So like the column is like this. Then we have columns and we have rows. So we have columns and we have rows. So this is a row. Everything out here structured like this is in a column. I don't know if that makes sense. So this is in a row as well. Everything here is in a column, but when we are building it out, it will make sense. But in Flutter, a column takes in a property of children, which is a list. If you don't know what a list is, but I believe before you start working on Flutter, you should have understood how to get started with Flutter. So you should have learned that and all about that. No pun intended. Moving on, let's start organizing some structure. So they are majorly, let's just call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections. So there are about 7 sections that we should be going through. Let us break that down. We have search and menu icon. The goal right now with this particular section will be to organize our structure so that in the next video we start laying out the puzzle pieces. But let's just get the structure down, then we'll wrap it here and we'll move on to the next one. So we have search and menu icon. Then we have what we call like like page position, let's just call it that. Then we'll have location, date. Then we'll have temperature, uh, let's say we'll call it temperature, and temperature status, temperature status. And we'll have a divider, and then we'll also have wind, rain, and humidity. All right, so that's just the basic structure we have. I think in the next video, because this is over 30 something minutes long, so I believe in the next video what we want to look into is actually getting these things built out, because currently all we just have is the picture, the background image. So we have to start adding all these other things. So yeah, so far so good, looking great. See you in the next video.